Wanted to make sure to have enough time for questions and discussion of the novel or Adler or things. So, yeah, Al.
An expected question might be, how has your understanding of Holocaust aided you in the translation of this book? But I want to ask the reverse.
I was going to say, that would, yeah.
How has this experience for you deepened your understanding of the Holocaust?
That these, I think I alluded to it when I was talking earlier, that Adler is interesting in portraying these people as people in all senses of the word, as having many facets, many sides of that, you know, the sky above this Auschwitz on certain days was blue and the weather was good. And people were grateful, and they talked of home, but they also talked about books. They talked about their ideas, that he is trying to portray this experience in as many multifaceted colors and depths and complexities as possible. And that's what, and doing an interview, because I think for the Journey, I had an interviewer who said, I've read a lot of Holocaust novels, but this is the one I feel the closest to the characters. And what she was saying, I think, was because they were not sort of stock victim characters. They were, you know, they had their flaws, they had their nobilities, they had their commonalities, they had their everyday stuff going on, and he's really interested in sort of projecting the entire and whole person, and also that it's not a sort of, you know, Germans versus the Jews kind of question. I mean, he's as much interested in showing how the German guards are implicated in a horrible system that they can't get out of, that they're as much caught up in this as their own victims, and that's a pretty complicated rendering of this. I mean, I haven't touched upon one thing. Liliana didn't mention this either. I think the other unique thing about Adler is he had a terrible time publishing these novels. Panorama was written in 1948. It was not published in 1968. The Journey was written in 1950-51. It was not published until 1962. Peter Solkamp sort of famously said, as long as I am alive, this novel will not appear in Germany, and it proved true. It was published by a very tiny publisher who could barely distribute it. His novels were barely reviewed. There are 3 complete novels sitting in his archives in Marbach. Done. I've seen them, I've read them, they're ready to hand to the publisher. Never saw light of day. Why? I think it's partially this, because of a kind of modernized voice, a kind of aestheticized experience, rather than a straightforward writing of witness writing of a kind of almost realistic kind of historical kind of novel. And I think what I came to appreciate was...
Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
That's what you just said is really complicated.
Yep.
And we're tiptoeing on some difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because the first thing one would think is, and it's true of many other writers, Primo Levi took a long time to get his first book published. The first thing is we were all in the business of forgetting and rebuilding and Marshall Plan and getting to Israel and learning Hebrew and so forth.
Yep.
So the first thing one wants to say is they couldn't get it published, whether it was nuanced or symbolic stock character.
Yep.
That would be the first thing I'd say, probably the second, third, fourth, and fifth.
Yep.
And then sixth, one would say, there is and here's where I'm going to try to summarize what you said, and it's going to sound really bad.
Okay, well, maybe what?
Sixth, you would say, then the business of producing will to bear witness books that include sometimes, you know, the German guard who's maybe more evil than a realistic aestheticized portraiture would present him, and the victim as, you know, less complicated in his innocence.
Yep.
Okay. And that the need for that suppressed, more nuanced, aestheticized, that is really quite a conclusion to draw, and I don't know what to do with it.
Well, I don't either. I mean, the fact is that he he couldn't get these novels published, or if he got them published, he couldn't get them reviewed. Now, part of this he's in London. He's outside the circles of German letters. He goes back to Germany 2 to 3 months a year to do lecture tours. He was very good friends with Heinrich Böll, very good friends. He stayed at his house whenever he went to Köln. Heimat von Doderer wrote a positive review. He was very close friends with Elias Canetti. Later fought with him. Who didn't? I mean, Kennedy was a difficult man himself. So he was extremely. He knew Theodor Adorno. I mean, he was invited to Frankfurt to give lectures by Adorno. He and Adorno squabbled over this very question and critiqued each other over this very question. Adorno's. I mean, I'm simplifying, but Adorno's famous passage. You can't write a poem. It's barbaric to write a poem after Auschwitz. Well, Adler obviously is from the other side, saying, no, you must. You must write poems. You must write novels. You must write scholarly books. You must write religious tracts, which his last book is a 250-page tract on religion and his ideas about religion. I think this is what's fascinating about him. It goes back to your first question, what do I take away from this? That someone could come out of this experience with this complicated a view of it and still maintain that complexity right to his dying day. So